The strongest patent which we have is the use of this drug as inhalable drug. So no other competitor is able to, formulate, inhalable acetylsalicylic acid.
Hello, my name is Mike Ward. I'm the head of content at Script and the Pink Sheet. We're here in Berlin at the Bio-Europe meeting, where pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies and investors all get together to have conversations, whether it's about investments, potential investments, or potential partnerships, to get just a sense, a finger on the pulse of actually what is happening in the industry. Quite a lot of those conversations are around the really, really hot areas of immuno-oncology, or the microbiome, but actually there are still some pretty old-fashioned illnesses that we still need to deal with. Influenza, it comes around every year. Lots and lots of people get affected by it. Some individuals, however, it's so bad they end up being hospitalized. And in fact, the mortality rate for some of those individuals is as high as 1% to 2%, which is about tenfold higher than the normal population. This is a very, very acute medical need that is at the moment unmet, and it is the focus of the efforts of Ventaleon. I'm joined by Ulrich Dauer, who's the CEO. I think you've been there since the beginning of the year of Ventaleon. So Ulrich, just describe to us, what your approach is in this, what is an unmet medical need, really.
Yeah. Again, as you said, influenza is not just about unpleasant symptoms. It's a really severe disease or condition, especially for those patients who end up in the hospital. And you talked about the mortality and also the economic impact, because it's very expensive to treat patients in the hospital. Now, our approach to this particular influenza population is a inhalable therapy with a well-characterized drug. Actually, it's acetylsalicylic acid, or also known as aspirin, which we have brought into a inhalable formulation. It's an amino acid salt, which makes it inhalable, so you really can tolerate the inhalation of this drug. And what was unknown yet is a feature of acetylsalicylic acid, which is the inhibition of a cell-based target that the virus is depending on for its replication. So we are targeting a host cell target and preventing the virus from replicating. And we believe that with that host cell-based approach, we avoid to put resistance pressure on this virus. And in that, this is a unique approach, and we have the opportunity to be first in class with this approach for this very particular patient population, where currently no other treatment option actually is available.
Yeah. So what is the sort of supporting data you have for your hypothesis?
Right. So we have an entire preclinical package to really show the antiviral efficacy of this inhalable drug. And we have completed a phase 2 trial, a field trial, if you will, with multiple centers in Europe, but also in the southern hemisphere in Argentina. The primary endpoint of this trial was the alleviation, the time to alleviation of symptoms, which is exactly what counts if you look on hospitalized patients. And this trial really gave statistical significant results with respect to a shorter time to alleviation of symptoms, between 1 and 2 days, depending on the severity of the symptomatic of the patients.
So you reduce the time that they would have to stay in hospital,
exactly,
at least by a day, but up to 2 days.
Right. So that we have shown. What we still want to show also in a clinical setting is the true antiviral efficacy. So we are just completing a so-called challenge trial, so where we recruit volunteers that are being infected with a pathogen and then being treated, and we primarily look on the viral load. So the viral AUC, the viral area under the curve, is going to be the primary endpoint of this trial. And again, the goal is to prove the antiviral efficacy in a clinical setting. And with both data packages we want to prepare for pivotal trials in Europe and in the US.
So at the moment you've gone this alone? Is that the case? So you've done these trials on your own?
Yeah, we are the sole study sponsor, if you will, so the product is currently unpartnered. We want to complete this package, which I've just described, and of course we want to look for partners who are helping us to get this drug on the market in certain territories. So that's on our strategic agenda.
Okay, so the partners, would you see them sort of helping you conduct the next set of trials, or do you actually hope to have completed all those trials and it's therefore almost a regulatory ready package that you would want to partner?
Well, I mean, those kind of field studies, phase 3 studies, they are quite challenging, they are quite expensive, and I think we need external resources to cope with the phase 3 development. So we rather would strive for a partnership before we go into the phase 3 campaign.
Okay, so I guess the IP protected part, I mean, because aspirin is aspirin, or
right.
It's the inhaler, or is it the formulation? What is the intellectual property?
It's both, but the strongest patent which we have is the use of this drug as inhalable drug. So no other competitor is able to formulate inhalable acetylsalicylic acid, and then we have a patent on the process, on the manufacturing process, and also on the specific antiviral activity. So we have a portfolio of patents which are protecting us against competitors. And again, what is also a critical success factor for this therapy is this efficient inhalation device, which we have been developed in the predecessor company called AkitaJet, which is controlling the flow and the volume of the aerosol into the deep lung.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting that sort of a compound that has been used by doctors for well over a century now, right. Is now used for probably one of the most common killers of people, actually, right. In terms of in terms of infection. Where did the idea come from to actually use?
Yeah, the idea actually came from Bayer itself. So they conducted the phase 1 trial, and you probably know that they took the strategic decision to divest their anti-infective portfolio, and in that context the project was transferred to Activero. But it was basically their idea, and the challenge is that you can't have the effect by a systemic treatment, because you just wouldn't be able to get the doses in the target organ in the infected cells. So you need to inhale it, and this makes it kind of not so straightforward, and that's why it's important also to have access to expertise in the inhalation field as well.
Sure. So what are the sort of the timelines in terms of starting sort of to get the sort of the final set of registration trial packages together, and maybe getting a partner for some geographies together?
Yeah. So our plan is that we have the package finalized for pivotal trials, so mid of next year. So that will be the time when we would, when we would file for pivotal trials on both sides of the Atlantic.
Okay. And do you have the sort of the financial, wherewithal to be able to do all this, or are you looking to raise funds as well?
Well, currently we have a runtime until end of 2018, so which is giving us the flexibility to really prepare the trials. If it goes into the execution of the clinical trials, we would need to have a further, a cash-generating event, being, a financing or a partnership.
Right. Okay. Well, Ulrich, nice seeing you again, and good luck with your efforts.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.